Payam Zamani, so nice to meet you and to talk to you. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you, Chris. Good to be with you.
So, first of all, we got to congratulate you on your amazing book, Crossing the Desert, and all kinds of fascinating things to talk about. But Crossing the Desert, the power of embracing life's difficult journeys. Big congratulations on that. How does it feel to be an author?
Thank you. You know, it's interesting. I've never viewed myself as a writer. So it's kind of interesting to get used to the idea of that
Mm.
I'm an author now. But it's pretty cool. It's been exciting, and it's been an exciting process to get this book out.
Well, you are a wonderful writer,
Thank you.
incidentally. So you should think of yourself as a writer because you're a wonderful communicator and a wonderful writer. It's powerful, it's informative, and it's an important book. So thank you for writing it.
Thank you.
And as the author of five books myself, I know how hard that is to do. I know how demanding it is to do. So, fantastic job on doing it. And you've got some wonderful endorsements for the book. In fact, we have a little bit of an intersection in our lives in that one of my
Oh,
books was introduced by President George W. Bush, and you got a
yes.
wonderful endorsement from Laura Bush on
Yes.
your book as
Lauren.
well.
Yes. Yes. That's right.
How did that happen, by the way?
Lauren has been a good friend for a long time, and I love the work that she does. So there was no question that, when I wrote the book, I reached out to her. I said, given the work that you do, it would mean a lot if she would be one of the people endorsing it. And luckily, she accepted.
So, when you talk about the idea of the book, what's interesting is that uh, there's so much in this book, and we could spend 3 hours talking just about this book. But you've had an incredible story, and it's a heart wrenching story in many ways, but it's also really an incredibly powerful and optimistic story about hope and faith and how important they are. And I think that for me, that's one of the most important things I think that you can take out of this. But you obviously had an arduous journey, and uh, in a nutshell, tell our viewers a little bit about your background as far as where
Sure.
you came from.
So I was born in Iran, and I was born in a Baha'i family. And Baha'i faith being relatively a recent religion, but it's a religion that accepts all the religions of the past. And we feel like when it comes to religions, it's and not or, because we believe that if there's one God, there can only be one truth. There cannot be many different truths out there. Um, but being born in a Baha'i family came with a lot of challenges because the Iranian government, particularly after Iran's revolution, did not think very highly of most minorities. And if you were Baha'i, they even thought less of you than the rest of the minorities. And frankly, they're not that nice to the rest of the citizens, anyways. So they killed many Baha'is in the 1980s, and they expelled Baha'is from their jobs, and many Baha'is from schools also. As an 11-year-old, I was expelled from school. And 45 years later, since the revolution of Iran, Baha'is in Iran still don't have the right to attend universities. So, as a result, I experienced a few different situations in my life that I did not think I'm going to get out of those situations alive. And they definitely partly shaped, I think, who I am today. And I was smuggled out of Iran ultimately in 1987 when I was 16, because that was the only way to find a path to freedom, to safety, and be able to build a life.
And so you come to the United States, and obviously you didn't come here in the easiest of circumstances.
Right.
And like you said, you were 16 years old. By 28 years old, you've got $1 billion IPO. I mean, this is an extraordinary story. How did you get from there to there, so to speak?
So, this is where the idea of hope is really something that I love to talk about, because I feel like we live in a political climate in the US these days that we are made to believe that there is this light that the US has that's dimming. And I feel like the US represents hope beyond what Americans really truly understand. And that hope extends to everybody on the planet. If you're a teenager in Iran, if you're a teenager even in Gaza today, you don't think that Saudi Arabia is going to save you. You don't think that Russia or China are going to save you, but you have hope that the US will rise to what it is meant to be, which I believe is almost like a spiritual destiny that this country has that will potentially save that individual. So, how did this happen? Taking the company public 11 years after I had come to the US. Well, it's the foundation that this country has built on the shoulders of many who came before me and before us, that created, I think, an environment, an ecosystem that allows people, regardless of their background, to be able to prosper in this country. And I feel like being someone who's come from the other side of the world and having seen the alternative, I probably appreciate that more than anyone else. But having said that, these things, there's no playbook for them. You need to be at the right place at the right time. You need to appreciate that life moment and take advantage of it. And beyond that, you need to meet the right people. And I happen to be really fortunate that I met many good people early on as I came to the US, that they really helped me to create a path that resulted in that kind of an outcome, which, we'll talk about that probably more, but that by itself also opened my eyes to many other issues that I wanted to get involved in.
So tell our viewers just really quickly, because there's so much
Yeah.
to go over, but uh, the, the first company that you started that led to that IPO, tell them a little bit about that company, because you were
Yeah.
really a leader in a lot of ways.
So in 1994, my brother and I, we started a company called AutoWeb.com. Now, I tell people this often, that most of us entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley who started companies in early to mid 90s, we did not do that because we thought that that's going to become a massive success. We did that because we had a passion for whatever we were doing. We didn't even think that internet is going to be the right place to build a business. And I liked cars. My brother worked at Microsoft. We put the two together and we built a website for cars. And it just turned out that the internet became what it became, and we were at the right place. We had already built something. So as that platform grew, we were able to ride that wave. But we were the first performance-based marketing company out there, online marketing company out there. We were the first online car buying service, a website about cars out there. And the one thing that drove us was to basically arm consumers with more information about cars than the car salesman had.
Mm.
So as a result, a car buyer could walk into a dealership knowing everything they need to know about that car, including how much the dealer paid for that car, the invoice prices. Up to that point, consumers did not know what even an invoice price was or how much the dealer paid. Now it's everybody expects to know that, but back then they didn't. Anyhow, and a combination of many different things that we did allowed us to build a company that by 1999 mattered. And we were able to take that company public as a result of that, which was, of course, an amazing experience to be a part of.
And the result was a $1.2 billion valuation.
Yes.
And you tell some incredible stories in the book about, just the contrast of how that allowed you to live, compared to how you were living before. And it really is an extraordinary, magnification and deep dive into really what's possible in America in a lot of ways. And, what you just said is so powerful too about, we started the Center for Social Capital because we believe in the power of business. We believe in the power of capitalism to create great wealth for all kinds of people and great prosperity
Yeah.
across the boards. And but we also believe it has to be done in the right way. It has to be done the way it was intended to be, by respecting people and by digging deep into who we are as people. I love how you talked about you had a passion for cars. This is something very organic, very real. And then you decided to start a company with that. And then you also talked about how it helped people. I mean, almost almost no one now doesn't go in to a car dealer armed with that information. It's all over the internet now, and that's so powerful. It took away one of the most powerful assets against you when you went to buy a car, is that now
Right.
you actually know how much it is. So I love that, and I love that that's what led to your success, is actually providing an important, valuable service. We have so many companies that sometimes just want to create a way of making money for nothing, so to speak. And I love that that is not what you were about. You were trying to do something valuable and worthwhile. Now, creating a $1 billion company obviously brings with it a whole lot of other stuff, if you will. And you made an interesting point in the book of how maybe this caused some challenges to who you were and to your faith, and that kind of led you in another direction that eventually led you to what you're doing now. I would love you to tell our viewers about that
Sure.
experience and what you went through.
I talk about this in the book that when my company went public, today I'm embarrassed to acknowledge the fact that when that happened, the first thing went through my mind was, now I got to do something bigger, because
Mm,
that's what Silicon Valley does to you. And I think that's what
mm,
capitalism, the version of it you're practicing today, does to you. I sold the company, now I got to build a company that can sell for more, and so on and so
mhm,
forth. Why is that? Because we have a very archaic way of measuring somebody's worth. What is somebody's net worth? Well, let me look at the stock they own, and the assets that they have. We measure worth by how much of this planet's whatever this planet offers, the resources of the planet, I can consume. Think about it, how archaic that is. The
mhm.
more I can consume, I have the power to consume, the more I'm worth. Um, I thought there was something fundamentally wrong with that. And then the other thing that I thought was a problem was how I felt the system was rigged, the way that Wall Street worked, the way that just stock prices worked. That there's a lot to be said about managing stock price and building a company, and that
Mm,
was really bothering me as well. And it took me a while to really figure out what was in my heart and try to make sense out of it in the form of something that could manifest itself in the way that businesses should be built. My conclusion has been this: that we raise our kids with bunch of spiritual principles. And people will be surprised when I say this, that when you teach your kid kindness or truthfulness, that's a spiritual value you're teaching them. Those did not come out of thin air. They came from some sort of spiritual belief system. But then when it came to business, we said, you know what? Business is business.
mm,
Well,
mhm.
business touches noble people with a spiritual existence. How could business be just business? And then Milton Friedman basically told us that greed is good. That's the only reason we're building businesses. And I thought that, well, no wonder we are left empty. What if my everyday work, my everyday professional commitment could uplift me and others? Why should nonprofit stands for the betterment of the world and for profit for greed? Why can't we
Mhm.
blur the line a little bit?
I absolutely love that. I mean, that's all of what we are about at the Center for Social Capital, and one of the reasons why we love you so much and what you're doing. Um, so that powerful idea, and we've interviewed so many leaders like yourself who just don't get it, and it doesn't make sense. Like you said, I mean, why would we separate and take away our humanity and that which makes us human, which is this desire to love and respect others? Why would we take that away, that powerful tool, when we're doing business? It should be just the opposite. We should use it, use it more to
Mm-hmm.
empower ourselves when we're in business. So now you did something very interesting and powerful in a huge way. That how did that perspective lead you to One Planet Group, which
Mm-hmm.
you have now, and what you're doing, and tell our viewers a little bit about what you are doing, because it really is extraordinary.
So, One Planet is a sort of a private equity. I said private equity because I don't have a better term to describe it. But basically, we own a few assets, a few companies that are in the performance-based marketing space, online performance-based marketing, which I know that business very well. We also own a few media companies, and we also invest in startups. But the thing that we have tried to infuse our business with, I call it spiritual capitalism. So I'm going to be very clear that I'm not a socialist, I'm not a communist. I want to build very successful businesses, but I want these businesses to be created with a profit in mind, but with no loss to humanity. So it can only help humanity. I don't want to think that my success happens in isolation from the rest of the world and the community that I'm a part of. I don't want to build a business that thinks that my success should cause my competitors' demise. That's the only way I'm going to be able to gain what I want to gain. So a few things that we have incorporated. One, is our tagline: innovation plus intention. People ask me often that, "Are you afraid of AI?" And my response is that, well, tell me who's the innovator behind it, because I'm not afraid of any technology. I'm afraid of the intention of whoever is building whatever they're building, because they can use it for good or they can use it for bad. So I don't know. It depends. It depends on the people behind it and their intention. And really, the concept that if I'm building something, I need to think about the ripple effects of that decision.
Yeah.
And that goes along with all of my economic decisions as a consumer and as an innovator, as a CEO, as a member of a management team, because they have a ripple effect, the consequences of all of our financial decisions. The second thing that is really core to it is leading with love, appreciating that I'm not dealing with humans as a token of economic value, but something way beyond that. They're a spiritual being having this material existence, and we got to go way beyond material to do it justice. So again, the way that I treat my employees, my community, my competitors, my vendors, my clients should be elevated to a completely different level. What's interesting though is, and I've learned this, over the past decade as I've implemented these things, that your business actually does better when you do these things. Because who doesn't want to work with you when you implement those things? When average employees at Google, Meta, and Apple, they last for 2 to 3 years. Ours lasts for 9 years, 10 years, because they want to be a part of this environment. And you become actually more profitable, which creates its own issues. What do you do with those profits? Which I believe that the next thing that you're supposed to do is sacrificial giving, because wealth is something, whether it's individual or company's wealth, that we are supposed to empty ourselves of it and not accumulating. I think accumulated wealth is the worst form of wealth. It needs to support me, my family, and then ultimately the betterment of the world. And if I think in those manners, I think it will really change the way I think about wealth and how I want to behave to keep growing it. If you're a CEO of a company and a founder of a company, you're already worth $100 billion. We have a few of those now. Unbelievable that we have people worth that much. Why do they want to keep growing it? You cannot take it with you. So how can you implement steps that will allow you to basically give back in a way that will also lift up your own soul?
You've said so much there, and it's so rich. But I wanted to zero in on just a couple of things that are just so powerful and important. First of all, the fact that you believe that this is the way that business works best. And we believe that as well, very much so, that it's not that we're just saying, let's do this to be nice. This is the way that business works best. And you could be channeling Adam Smith, who wrote The Wealth of Nations, but he also wrote another book called The Theory of Moral Sentiment. And he opened up that book. This is a guy talking about capitalism 150 years ago who said, however selfish man may seem to be, what we believe he wants more than anything else is to see the betterment of others. And he goes on to talk about how, the concept of maximizing self-interest is more complicated than just yourself. Your self-interest is your community. It's your family. It's the people that you work with. It's the people that buy from you. That's all part of your community. And it is in your best interest to help those people and to see those people improve. And you just said that so perfectly in what you were talking about. And you have a tagline on oneplanetgroup.com, in fact, where you say, our mission is to support strong business ideas while building an ethos that helps improve society and give back to communities. Uh, and we believe that good ideas and profitable businesses are not enough. Making a positive impact starts with aligning our efforts with the right intentions. This whole idea of your company and your profits and what you do for work being intertwined with your personal belief system is so powerful and so important. And I could thank you a million times and it wouldn't be enough for what you're saying, because you're proving that it can be done, and you're launching companies with this ethos. And it seems like you know your your feedback has been pretty good. These companies are succeeding, correct?
Our companies have the same challenges that all other companies out there that you face will have. But I feel like, and I think we're approaching this in a humble posture of learning. I don't want to ever say that I've got it figured out. We don't. But I feel like these are important principles that we have to take into account. And you said something really well that I want to acknowledge, which is the idea of self-interest here, that I want to be joyful at the end of the day. I want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that I feel fulfilled. And I think by implementing the kinds of things that I talk about, we build businesses that feed our soul also. That at the end of the day, we don't feel just empty, even though we may have made money. We don't feel like, because at the end of the day, as humans, we live our most satisfying self when we are in service to others, not just me, me, me.
I love that. Again, I could talk to you for hours about this, and we will definitely have to have you back to talk more. But I want to thank you for your time today. Um, Everyone out there needs to get this book. It's a wonderful book. It can teach you so much about life, about business, and everything else. Crossing the Desert: The Power of Embracing Life's Difficult Journeys. Amazon, bookstores, all kinds of places. You should definitely get it. And Payam Zamani, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Good to be with you.